If you're thinking about moving to Baton Rouge, before you run out and fall in love with a house, you want to make sure you understand what it actually costs to live here. And while it is important, the price of the home is not the only factor that you want to take into consideration. If you're looking to get a feel for what the true cost of living is in Baton Rouge, then this video is for you. Let's go ahead and get into it. Hey, Sean Ramos here, and this is Living in Louisiana, where we're talking everything you need to know when it comes to what it's like moving to or living in the Greater Baton Rouge area. In this video, we're gonna get down into the details of what it actually costs to live in Baton Rouge and some of the surrounding areas. We won't be going into every aspect of the cost of living in Baton Rouge. Today, we're specifically focusing on housing and the cost associated with housing. Well, let's go ahead and get started with housing prices. So right now, the average cost of a house in Baton Rouge is around $309,000. And just for comparison, we'll also look at some of the cities surrounding Baton Rouge. Just east of the city in Denham Springs, you're looking at about $268,000 on average. Just to the north of the city in Zachary, you're looking at around $303,000, which is slightly cheaper than Baton Rouge. And if you look at a city like Prairieville, which is probably the most sought after and popular suburb of Baton Rouge, now you're looking at an average of about $365,000. So you're gonna pay a little more to live out there. And when we're looking at how much house you get for your money, we look at price per square foot. In Baton Rouge right now, you're looking at about $159 a square foot on average. In Denham Springs, you're about $150 a square foot. Zachary is gonna be about $149 a square foot. And in Prairieville, you're gonna be on average about $172 a square foot. And keep in mind, these are just averages. In any of these towns, you can find houses that are much more expensive than that. In Baton Rouge, some of the houses we're gonna look at, you can easily get into the over $200 or even over $300 per square foot, just depends on the neighborhood. And now let's look at the differences between new construction and resale homes. Just to get an idea and give some examples, I looked at a couple neighborhoods in the Baton Rouge area that I really like. First one I looked at was Matera. Right now, there's a new construction home listed that's about 2,400 square feet. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home that's listed for $480,000. And that comes out to $200 a square foot. And in the same neighborhood, there's a pre-existing home that's slightly smaller. It's about 2,260 square feet. That's also a 4-bedroom, 3 full bath. It was built by the same builder as the new construction home, but it's had some upgrades and does have a little bit more of a custom feel. And this home that's about 4 years old is listed for $537,400. And that's just a hair under $238 a square foot. So in this case, in this neighborhood, you can actually get a better deal on the new construction home. So then I looked at another neighborhood that I like a lot, Lakes at Harveston. Right now, there's a new construction home listed that's just under 2,450 square feet. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, listed for $799,000. This neighborhood tends to sell for a little more, and that's $327 a square foot. But then there's a pre-existing home that's a little larger. It's about 2,640 square feet. It's also 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and it's also listed for $799,000. Which lands you at $303 per square foot. So in this case, you get a larger house for the same money, and the pre-existing home is the better deal here. So that can vary from neighborhood to neighborhood. There's no set rule on which one you're gonna get a better deal on when you're looking at new construction or pre-existing houses. And I do wanna throw in that some of these new construction deals, the builder often offer really good incentives for buyers, and that could be better interest rates than you'll find on the market, and also seller concessions where they contribute to your closing costs. And to get those deals, you're typically gonna need to use their preferred lender and title company. But it can definitely sweeten the deal if you're leaning towards new construction. And those incentives can change weekly, so if you're looking to get an idea of what's out there right now, just get with me and I can get you the most current deals that are going for different neighborhoods. Now let's take a look at some different price ranges in different areas around the Baton Rouge area and see what you can get. And in this case, I'm gonna use $300,000, $500,000, and $700,000 just to give you an idea. So right now for $299,999, you can get a house in Spring Lake at Bluebonnet Highlands, which is a great area, and that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, right around 1,500 square feet. Back up in Matera, you can get a brand new construction home right now. It's listed for $499,000, and that's for a 2,250 square foot house that has 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. $700,000 will get you in a neighborhood like The Cove, which is in the mid-city area. And while that price point is a little bit higher, that gets you 3,900 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 4 full baths. Okay, so now you have an idea of kind of what you can get for your money in the Baton Rouge area. Let's talk about homeowners insurance. And while it can vary depending on certain things, I think typically we're seeing premiums of about $2,500 to $5,000 a year. And where you fall on that is going to depend on a number of things like the age of the house, the age and the condition of the roof, and which zip code the house falls in. But homeowners insurance is tightening up all over Louisiana. As a matter of fact, some companies have pulled out of the state altogether. So I think those prices are not incredibly high compared to some other markets. They're higher than they have been here. And one thing that's going to have a big impact on your premium and whether an insurance company wants to even cover you is the age of the roof. Roofs have gotten to be a pretty big deal when it comes to buying a house out here and getting insurance. Once it gets to be over 15 years old, there are plenty of companies that won't even give you a quote. And again, while those premiums aren't relatively high when you're thinking about other markets, I do find sometimes that, because they were lower here before, that sometimes buyers are surprised when they get that insurance quotes, sometimes to the point where it puts them over their budget and it can kill the deal. So what I like to do, especially if you're on a tight budget, is, let's get insurance quotes before we even put the offer in on the house so you know exactly where it's going to stand. Okay, now let's get into a topic that also comes up a lot around here. That's flood insurance. So flood insurance is going to be required in areas that FEMA has deemed as high risk areas. There are 3 flood zones that you need to be familiar with in this area. And we'll start with flood zone X. That's considered a low risk area, and it's typically not going to require that you have flood insurance. But it's definitely not a bad idea to have it even if it isn't required. But the good news is when it's not required, the premiums are typically lower, usually somewhere between $500 and $800 a year. Then when you get into flood zone A and AE, those are considered higher risk areas where if you do have a mortgage, it's going to be required that you carry flood insurance. And again, this is something that can vary greatly, but typically seeing when it's required that those premiums can fall between $1,200, $3,500 a year on average. And they can go higher than that if it's deemed that you're in a higher risk area. So again, that's something we want to get really clear on when it comes to which house you're going to pick. Now, just because a property is required to have flood insurance doesn't necessarily mean it's ever flooded or that it ever will flood. It just means that it's been deemed a high enough risk area that you have to have the insurance. I have plenty of clients who tell me they don't even want to look at houses that require flood insurance just because they don't want that additional cost. Now, unfortunately, flood zone is not a searchable feature in the MLS, but there are tools that I have access to where I can check to see if a house is in a flood zone that requires insurance or not. So that's something I can help you with when we get into your home search. Hey guys, real quick, I am a realtor that works in the Greater Baton Rouge area. So if you're relocating or if you're already here and you're just looking to make a move, I'd love a chance to earn your business. I may not be the best YouTuber, but I am really good when it comes to helping people buy and sell real estate in the Greater Baton Rouge area. So if there is anything that I can help you with when it comes to making that move, shoot me a call, text, or an email, and I'd love to help. Let's get back to it. Okay, the next thing we're gonna talk about is property taxes. Louisiana has relatively low property taxes. I know people all over the country, and some of the property tax amounts that I hear from other states are insane. But just to give an example, that $300,000 house that I was talking about earlier in Spring Lake at Bluebonnet Highlands, the sellers are currently paying just under $2,100 a year for their property taxes. So not too bad. And the property taxes can vary depending on where the house is. So East Baton Rouge to Ascension to Livingston Parish, the property taxes will look different in all of those areas. But again, that's something we can get a quote on before you buy the house so you know exactly what you're looking at. And don't forget about homestead exemption. That's something you'll definitely want to take advantage of here. So as long as you're an owner occupant of the house and you're going to be living there, you can file for a homestead exemption, and that makes the first $75,000 of the property value exempt from property taxes. On the average house on mine, for example, that saved me about $850 a year. Okay, next let's get into utilities and the monthly cost of your home. First thing we'll talk about is the electric bill. On average, you're probably looking at about $175 a month to $300 a month. And of course, that's going to depend on things like the size of the home and the efficiency of the home. The newer the house, the more energy efficient it tends to be, which helps a lot when it comes to your electric bill. And whether your house is all electric or it has gas also plays a factor. So let me use my house as an example. So the house I live in now is about 2 years old. It was new construction. We actually had the house built. It's 2,400 square feet of living area, and there are a couple rooms that have big tall cathedral ceilings, so that may add to it a little bit. And I have 2 air conditioner units in the house. So I have a big difference in my electric bill between the winter and the summer. During the winter, when I was never using the air conditioner, my lowest bill was about $116. And during the peak of the summer, when I was really cranking the AC, and again, I got those 2 units, the highest bill that I had was $288. But my house is very energy efficient, so the bill's not that bad at all. Now let's talk about the water, sewer, and trash bills. So depending on where you live, where the house is located, sometimes you're gonna have those broken up into 3 separate bills, and then in places like Baton Rouge, typically they're gonna be all lumped into one. But again, I'll use mine as an example. So I live a little further out in the area where everything is split up. And my gas bill, just like the electric bill, varies a lot between winter and summer. Just to give you an idea, in my house, the things that run off gas are the gas fireplace, the furnace, and the water heater. So during the summer, when I'm cranking the AC and I'm not using the furnace, obviously, my gas bill is only about $30 a month. During the winter, when I was really cranking the heater and the fireplace, then I was looking at $200 as my highest bill. So they kind of work hand in hand. You know, when my electric bill is high, my gas bill is low. When my electric bill is low, my gas bill is high. The water bill, not that bad at all. Typically looking at about $25 to $30 a month all year long. My trash bill with waste management runs about $30 a month. And right now I'm paying $65 a month for high-speed internet. I've seen those bills vary a lot. Typically, most of these companies are giving you a good rate for an introductory rate of 1 or 2 years, and then they're gonna start going up. And you can certainly shop those around. In most places you live, you're gonna have options when it comes to cable and internet. So your sewer situation is gonna vary depending on where you live too. If you're in a more rural area like I am, and a little further away from everything, there's no city or public sewer available. When I built my house, I had to have a private sewer system installed, so I don't have a monthly bill. When I did have that monthly bill, it was on average about $30 a month. So if you do end up in a place like I am where there's private sewer, again, there's no monthly fee, but there are costs associated with it. Every, I'm guessing, 4 or 5 years, you're probably gonna have to have that thing pumped out. And then there's always the chance that the aerator can break, and if you have to replace that, I'm thinking you're looking at somewhere around $400 or so. And I personally never had one that stopped working, but I have seen it on some of the deals that I've done. And then we get into the maintenance costs and some of the hidden costs that people don't necessarily think about when you're buying a house. Termite contracts are a very good thing to have in South Louisiana. Everybody says it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when you're gonna have an issue with termites. So having your house treated and under contract is something you definitely wanna consider. Now the initial termite treatment is gonna be a little more expensive than that. Depends on the size of the house, what type of treatment you do, which company you have do it. But the annual contract to keep that thing going is typically gonna be around $200 to $300 a year. But as long as you're under contract, if termites do show up, then you're covered. Pest control on average, maybe $35 to $60 a month. I know the guy that I use, I'm paying, I think, $80 a quarter. So I do a little better than that. And I can put you in touch with people who have, I think, the best service and the best prices. And your HVAC maintenance is something you really want to get taken care of too. The last thing you want in these hot Louisiana summers is for your air conditioner to go out. So most of the companies around here have yearly maintenance plans that you can take advantage of. So every year I'm getting somebody out to clean and service my units. I'd say about $150 per year per unit is kind of the average that you'll see. I know the company that I use and like a lot, they charge me $120 per unit, and I have 2. But I promise you that is a small price to pay to make sure your air conditioner stays running throughout these hot summers. And you've got little things like lawn care if you're not gonna do that yourself. I think on average for the typical yard around here, you're probably looking at $40, $50 per cut. So as you can see, it's not just the price tag of the home that you wanna take into consideration when you're buying a house in the Baton Rouge area. There are some of those hidden costs and ongoing costs that sometimes catch buyers off guard, especially when you're relocating from out of state. You don't always know what to expect. I know I've been in the situation myself where I had to move out of state and I had no idea what the cost of living was when I got there, and I was nervous until I luckily found out that it was even less than where I was living. But I would have felt a lot better going into it if I had known what I was getting into. And that's why I like to talk about things like this to all of my clients up front. So if you're planning on making the move to Baton Rouge or any of the surrounding areas, and you want to be sure that you find a home that works for your budget, then reach out. You can shoot me a text or an email and we can set up a call so we can talk about your situation specifically. I've helped people from all over the country relocate here, and I'd love to help you make your move as smooth as possible. If you haven't done it yet, please make sure you subscribe to the channel so we can do this again soon. I'm looking forward to talking to you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you on the next video.